Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. This is one of my favorite Martin Luther King Jr. quotes, and oh, how it rings true tonight. Welcome, and thank you so much for joining me, these amazing 8th grade students, and for being a witness present here tonight. You have all received a paperclip to wear on the collar of your shirt or sweater. The students chose to incorporate this symbol as a part of their service because during the Holocaust in Norway, non-Jews were wearing these as a symbol silently of solidarity and support to all Jews. Throughout this school year, Maura, Pam, and I have had the privilege of teaching these students about the Holocaust, from the slow and unsuspecting rise of the Nazi Party to the human rights that were taken away from the Jews, to the intense propaganda and brainwashing of hate and discrimination forced by the German people, to the atrocities and heroism, to the personal stories of those who perished, and so much more. These students have learned how to recognize bullying and injustice, how to speak out against issues that are socially wrong and morally reprehensible. They have grown to appreciate the privilege and freedoms that they possess and to practice their religion with pride. As we go through this special service this evening, in the observance of Yom Hashoah, Holocaust Remembrance Day, our students will be honoring, remembering, and memorializing the lives that were taken during the Holocaust. Please listen, reflect, and take in the poetry, stories, and words that these students have to share. Additionally, if you look around the room, you will see some of the artwork that the students have created throughout the year. Special pieces that reflect the lessons and topics that they have learned about. Toda rabah. Thank you so much.
I wrote a short timeline poem describing the Holocaust and from the perspective of someone sent to a concentration camp. I think this poem is a cool way to describe this aspect of the Holocaust while being informative and intense. The importance of this is to show that the Holocaust wasn't one bad event or circumstance over a day. It was over multiple years of tragedy with many forms of suffering. Now, without further ado, here it is. 1940, what a battle it has been. How foolish we are to think we're about to win. They came at us with hate and gas. We were dropping like flies. The very scary thought of knowing most will die. When we arrive, we're in pajama-type fits. We don't yet know what it means to be in Auschwitz. Weeks without food, weeks without a lullaby. That blonde man points to the left. He means it's time to die. Arrive to the camp, shave my head. I'm very lucky to even get a bed. We were starved for months, a piece of bread a week. The Jews are playing hide, praying no one seeked. A great big horror, for the Jews it truly was. Millions and millions dead, and for what cause? 6 million Jews and 5 million more. When I walk around the camps, sadly I see bodies on the floor. Innocent civilians drinking at a bar, sadly unaware, millions murdered not too far. My life's simple, like wanting new Jordans. I'm part of the ideal future of the Jews. One of the craziest part is many of these people didn't even have shoes. This was a sickening tragedy. More than 6 million children, women, and men. All we could ask for is never again.
Hi, I'm Natalie.
And I'm Carly.
Propaganda means a bias used to promote a certain opinion or viewpoint. Propaganda was first commonly used in World War I, but was later used on an even larger scale during the Holocaust. These times were also known as the Golden Age of propaganda. In this case, propaganda was used to spread hatred of the Jews through posters, newspapers, magazine articles, songs, children's books, and more. More than 200,000 designs were created, influencing millions. The Nazis were skilled propagandists who used sophisticated advertising techniques and the most current technology of the time to spread their ideas. You don't even need to know the language to understand the message.
In the Holocaust, propaganda was used for multiple reasons, portraying two distinct groups very differently. The Jews were portrayed as dark, dangerous, disease-ridden, and untrustworthy. Posters depicted Jews as non-human creatures. Nazism and the Aryan ideal were portrayed as desirable, successful, strong, something everyone wanted to be a part of. The Nazis used propaganda to promote the idea of Nazi superiority. There were also many posters that showed happy kids in a group. This was to entice kids to join the Nazi youth. There are many other things that propaganda was used for, but all of these show the terrible use of it. We decided to talk about propaganda because learning about it was upsetting.
It was difficult to see the ways Jews were depicted and the powerful effects of propaganda.
After understanding the strength and persuasion of propaganda, I know why I shouldn't believe everything people say and how awareness needs to be spread.
It's hard to think that with so many new media options, propaganda can be so much more easily spread.
Hello, I'm Lucy.
I'm Zoe.
This original poem alternates parts between a Jewish boy and his German friend who joined the Hitler Youth. It takes place before the war starts when the ideas of Hitler were becoming popular. The Jewish boy feels upset that his old best friend would turn on him so quickly after their long friendship. The friend feels pressured to join the Hitler Youth and feels guilty about leaving his friend.
This is a problem that many Aryan children felt when the Hitler Youth became popular. They were told that people they had just been close to their whole lives were now evil and had to be bullied. Most children just went with the status quo and betrayed their close friends. The Jewish children felt like outcasts and didn't know what was going on. It was so crazy to imagine a world where all of a sudden you're told that your friend that you've known your whole life is the reason for all the problems in your country. And now, someone I once knew.
While at school, I feel the stares. I don't wear their uniform, I'm not blonde, no blue eyes, but I don't care. I'm the one with horns, the one who's the scare. I know they're wrong, it isn't fair.
I miss him secretly. I know I should not. Now I am lost in a sea of red, yellow, and black. I see no way back. It is not fair, 'cause now I am in despair, but I must fulfill my role.
He just joined my old friend, the one I thought would stay with me until the end. He said that he had my back, I guess not now. He throws the rocks with a big fat scowl. How the pressure changed him, I'll never know, but the friends I once had's values have dropped so low.
My parents believe Hitler when he says Jews are to blame, that Aryans are the only group that should be German by name.
When the person I told everything to turns his back, it feels to my face like a big smack. Was our friendship not worth the world? Is his club membership, Hiles, and new friends the point where he decided to kick me to the curb?
The boys here still. I try to hide. They say all Jews are shifty and vile.
I thought this bond would never break, but the pressures of life made it fake. To him now, I'm just a dirty Jew, someone that he never knew.
I know he is angry, but what could I do? Feeling like an outcast, all I want to do is ask, where was the boy who always had my back?
Hi, I'm Mariella.
And I'm Sasha.
Millions of Nazis in Germany and in many other European countries had active or passive roles in mass murdering Jews, righteous Gentiles, partisans, Santi, LGBTQ, and others. Even the kids participating, joining the Hitler Youth and the League of German Girls. But what about the little kids? When they are little, they believe what people tell them. So when parents told kids that Jews were horrible and vile, the kids believed them, or did what they were told without understanding why. We created a German kid named Stefan, who will share his thoughts about this.
The Holocaust through the eyes of a young German boy.
I'm Stefan Mueller, 9 years old, and I was born on April 2nd, 1926. I'm part of the Hitler Youth.
A little bit about me. Hello, my name is Stefan Mueller. I'm part of the Hitler Youth group. I don't really know why we are doing this harmful stuff to the Jews and what the Jews did to us, but I just have to follow along.
Growing up, one of my favorite board games was Catch the Rat. I loved to catch the Jewish rat because my parents made comments about them, like they were nasty and infested our community. I loved to squash them and kill them to win the game, even though I don't really know why.
Why I joined Hitler Youth. All my friends joined and told me how it was so fun. We did things like train for killing Jews. My parents made me join, and people said good things about it, so why not join?
My best friend. My best friend was Jewish. All of a sudden, he stopped coming to school, and I didn't know why. Then I found out he and his family were executed. I was shocked. What is going on here? I miss him a lot. I would do almost anything for him to come back, but he was Jewish, and my parents told me that I couldn't be friends with a Jew anyway.
My views and thoughts now. I don't really know what I'm supposed to think now, but after all, I guess my parents are right. They usually are. I'll keep fighting with Hitler Youth. I really hope this is over soon. I don't want to be seen as a part of this group, but I don't have any choice. As you can see, it was confusing for the Jewish and German children during the Holocaust sometimes. As Hitler was changing everything in Germany, it was even hard for a lot of grown-ups to understand what was happening and what it all meant. If I went to school tomorrow and my teacher told me that some of my friends could no longer attend, and my parents told me that I could never see them again, and both said how horrible they were from today on, I know I wouldn't automatically hate my friends. If you were a child and this major political group was taking over your country, would you follow along with their beliefs, even if you didn't really know what was happening?
Hi, I'm Miles. The combination of insufficient nutrition with hard labor led to emaciation, diseases, and starvation sickness, the causes of a significant number of deaths in the camps. The SS calculated that a prisoner could exist on the daily food ration for about 3 months. Then they were supposed to die. So the prisoners were simultaneously worked and starved to death. There was always a new arrival to take their place.
Keeping the prisoners starving was the Nazis' plan to keep the Jews from having energy to revolt, flee, plot, or overpower. Starvation broke people's spirits as much as their bodies. I felt that food through the Holocaust was an important topic to touch upon. Now, some people may take food for granted and not think about what it was like to actually starve. Our original poems express the pain people went through.
My stomach complains, and I mumble quietly to myself, to eat, not to eat. It is such a small piece of bread after all. To drink, not to drink. What is there to drink? Tell me, you folk. Filthy water with blood? Fire will I send through the land? Curses will I aim at the heavens? And I will dream of my next meal.
My stomach grumbling, my head beating, my heart exhausted. My bones turned brittle, my skin black and blue. Drool seeping through my cracked lips, I was soon to be on the ground. If I died, people would realize the cause, something simple, painless, or at least it should be.
How would you feel if you had to live in a tiny space not meant to be lived in? Afraid for your life, afraid to make a sound, unsure how long you were going to be there, afraid of having to leave too soon.
Imagine doing that underground with too many people to fit into the space, some you don't even know. Imagine doing that not for days, not weeks, not even months, but years.
Today we will give you a taste of the experience of a Jew in hiding. This is just one scenario. Not every story went like this. Some Jews were rejected, and some had to beg or pay in order to be let into a non-Jew's home.
The lucky Jews were told, "Come hide in here," because even in the very worst of circumstances, some people help simply because it's the right thing to do.
Shh! They're coming!
I'm scared.
You hiding a Jew?
No, of course not.
We will check your entire house until we find what we want.
Stay still. No, are you crazy? They're gonna hear you.
I know you're hiding Jews.
We promise we're loyal to Hitler.
If you see any Jews, report them immediately for a reward.
Yes, sir.
Or else.
Imagine this. 12 people were hidden in the house of a Nazi officer. It was his housekeeper who smuggled the Jews in the basement, took care of them in secret. They all survived the war.
And this, Ava and Leanne Musner, ages 5 and 3, were reported to the police because the couple hiding them had a fight. The angry husband turned them in. Musner's sisters were sent to Auschwitz and killed.
Life in hiding was always dangerous. The Jews and their protectors lived in constant fear. The Nazis made a concerted effort to locate the Jews in hiding and often offered rewards for those who turned in Jews.
We are grateful for the people who risked their lives to help the Jews during the Holocaust.
Hi, I'm Daphna.
I'm Sammy.
The Kindertransport is German meaning children's transport, and it was the name given to rescue efforts between 1938 and 1940 that sent Jewish refugee children from Germany-controlled areas to safety in Europe. Children under 17 traveled to England to escape the violence that was brewing in Germany and other countries. The only catch was that children could not be accompanied by adult relatives. Parents were forced to send away kids in order to keep them safe, not knowing where they would go or what would become of them. Many parents sewed money and other valuables into the lining of their children's clothes to help them smuggle precious items with them and to prevent the Nazis on trains to steal.
The Kindertransport rescued and relocated nearly 10,000 innocent children who could have been otherwise killed. What a horrible choice, to keep your child with you in a dangerous situation or send them away to an unknown place. Social worker Norbert Walheim recalled, "We couldn't even foresee, we couldn't surmise for a moment that for many or most, it would be the last goodbye, that most of these children would never see their parents again." This is a poem that a father, Max Heyman, wrote about his 14-year-old daughter who left on the Kindertransport. "You're setting out, we're staying home. Seasons turn, flowers climb. You're so young and we are old, make use of your time."
Your life is open and new. No envy, no hate, no grief. We want to do everything for you, but our arms are weak.
If the new world seems curious, be strong and try to puzzle through. The old world disappointed us. Your life will be new.
This is a historical fiction version of a last letter home from a Jewish man in a concentration camp to his daughter. I think the first person point of view adds a sort of dramatic feel that I hope resonates with you. Dear Sarah, you're only 5 at the moment, but hopefully you're mature enough for this letter. If it's too much, you could read it when you want the answer to why you never saw me again. I want you to know this so that when you're old enough, you could tell my story for me. It's Daddy, the one who loves you so much but mysteriously went missing. This might be hard to accept or understand, but when you receive this letter, sadly, you will know that you'll never see me again. I was taken by the Nazis and put in a 10-person train car with around 100 other people, and I wasn't given any information about where we were going. After a long, unfamiliar ride, we arrived at this strange place. All the Nazi guards would say that if we worked hard, we would be set free. This was a lie. We were put in a line where a man would either point right or left. One way meant hard labor, another way meant death. I was fortunate enough to be spared, so I thought. I was put in a small room with hundreds of other starving, bald Jewish men. All I could see were bowls and what looked like shelves. The bowl was my lifeline. I needed it for everything, including a pillow. We weren't given mattresses, and we were packed tightly together on unstable beds that sometimes collapsed on each other. We were starving, only getting a piece of bread a week that had sawdust in it and a bowl of soup, which was essentially water, every couple days. It was our lucky day if we got a small piece of carrot or potato in our serving. We worked all day on no food or sleep at all, and we had to deal with the constant fear of being shot or beaten by the guards. There was a putrid smell all the time, and we could see the smoke rising from the chimney on top. It took me a little time to know that it was a crematorium. I prayed and I worked, but it wasn't enough. I'm doing this in secret, so I hope it gets to you. I'm sorry you have to find out this way, sweetie, but sometimes life is complicated. I want you to have an amazing life. Please don't use me as a depressant. Instead, use me as motivation, inspiration, and to show that you are brave. Times are going to be tough, so please just always listen to your mother and stay out of trouble. One last thing, being Jewish is an honor. Don't let intolerance and hatred ever convince you otherwise. I'm so sorry, Sarah. Love you so much. Love, Daddy.
Partisans were either Jews who had somehow escaped or avoided being sent to a concentration camp, or non-Jews who didn't believe in the Nazi philosophy. Instead of hiding out in the attic of some home, storage closet of a barn, or in a cave, they headed them fortists, secretly sabotaging the Nazis when they could. Some even did damage from inside the ghettos or concentration camps. There were partisan groups all throughout Eastern Europe hiding out in the woods. They wanted to show resistance to the Nazis in any way that they could, even if it wasn't physical. Some figured that if they were likely going to die, they'd rather die having done some good for the Jews. Other partisans smuggled messages between ghettos and concentration camps. Some were forgers who created fake documents so Jews could live out in the outside world or travel to safety. Some sabotaged guns and weapons of the Nazis while stuck in concentration camps. Partisans with ammunition blew up thousands of Nazi supply trains or train tracks, stopping them from reaching their destination. They also blew up Nazi power plants and factories. Their brave acts saved many lives and caused a lot of trouble for the Nazis. A famous Hungarian partisan, Hanna Senes, joined the British Army in 1943. She was trained as a paratrooper and in March 1944 was dropped in occupied Yugoslavia to coordinate resistance activities, rescued Allied personnel, and eventually saved the Hungarian Jews. After fighting alongside partisans for several months, she made her way across the Hungarian border, but she was soon captured. She was imprisoned and tortured, but refused to give up information about Allied communications. It's such an amazing and inspiring story that someone as young as 23 was able to make big changes and risk her life to save people she had never known. Hannah knew what the right thing to do was, and it really shows how important it is to have brave and good people in this world.
Did you know that slightly more than half the partisans were women? The Kashrayot were a group of young women, some as young as 15, who traveled on illegal missions for the Jewish resistance in German-occupied Eastern Europe during the Holocaust. Using false papers to conceal their identities, they smuggled secret documents, weapons, underground newspapers, money, medical supplies, news of German activities, forged identity cards, ammunition, and other Jews in and out of ghettos of Poland, Lithuania, and parts of Russia. Their name comes from the Hebrew word for connection, kasher, because the Kashrayot provided the kasher for Jews who were trapped in ghettos. The Kashrayot were a lifeline, a human radio for news information, a trusted contact for supplies and resources, and a personal inspiration for hope and resilience. Jewish historian Amanda Ringelblum wrote about Kashrayot these heroic girls. Boldly, they traveled back and forth through the cities and towns of Poland. They were in mortal danger every day. They rely entirely on their Aryan faces and on the peasant kerchiefs that cover their face. Without a murmur, without a moment of hesitation, they accept and carry out the most dangerous missions. If someone needed to Velina, Bialystok, Lemberg, or Lubin to smuggle in contraband such as illegal publications, goods, money, the girls volunteer as though it was the most natural thing in the world. They undertake the mission. Nothing stands in their way. Nothing deters them. How many times have they looked death in the eyes? How many times have they been arrested and searched? The story of Jewish women will be a glorious page in the history of Jewry during the present war, and these young women will be the leading figures in the story.
My grandpa was born in France to a family who escaped from there after experiencing anti-Semitism in Poland and Nazism in Germany. In 1942, the Nazis arrived in Lyon, and my grandpa, age 6, and his brother Freddie, age 8, were taken by the Red Cross, who smuggled them across the border to Switzerland by walking over the Alps Mountains. He and his brother stayed there for 2 years, living in an orphanage and not going to school every day. His parents and sister hid in an apartment back in France for 2 years, not leaving it even once. The kind and brave doorman smuggled them food. Separated from his parents, my grandpa was so lucky to be with his brother. At the end of the war, they were reunited, and my grandpa moved to Israel, which was supposed to be a safe haven for the Jews. This story is so important to me, not only because he's my grandfather, but because his story needs to be passed down to generations. My grandfather lost the most important part of his childhood and teenage years, which are things I hold so dearly close to my heart, and most people take for granted. My grandfather is now 88 years old, has 3 children, 9 grandchildren, and 2 great-grandchildren, and continues to tell his story.
How the Jews kept their faith. Even during such a horrible time, like in a concentration camp, many Jews managed to keep their faith. They kept faith in God and that they would soon be home and with their families again. Even such small acts like saying a prayer or following a Jewish tradition are inspiring to us because even in a time where Jews were fearful for their lives, they did not lose hope and they continued to do small acts like these to show the Nazis that even though they have taken everything from us, our freedom, our money, our belongings, our family, our names, and our dignity, they cannot take away our religion and our hope. Rabbi Yisrael Koltar wrote the following about this topic. The Holocaust was a tragedy of the greatest proportion. Our minds can't even begin to relate to the number 6 million. Logically, no faith or tradition can survive such a tragedy. There's no way to rebuild after such destruction. But the Jew is different. His faith does not depend on things making sense. His belief does not come and go, for it doesn't rely on circumstances or external factors. It is built in. It's inherently there. A Jew believes. A Jew has faith. He knows that it is often darkest before dawn. He believes that any day the world will once again be filled with light. His nation will be redeemed and returned to their homeland in an era of peace, unity, and revelation of godliness.
During the Holocaust, something that really resonated with me was how the Jews kept their faith even when they were suffering through the unimaginable, and they could see no end to their suffering. Their determination, perseverance, and faith inspire me. I learned that some Jews in the camps bonded together and found hope in each other. For the holidays, they found ways to keep their traditions alive, practicing Judaism in secret by saying Shabbat prayers and fasting on Yom Kippur even when they were starving. They fasted 2 days before or after because if the Nazis saw that you weren't eating on Yom Kippur, they would kill you for it. For many Jews, just surviving in the camps was an act of rebellion, surviving one day at a time with the hope that the coming day might be a little bit better. Because they didn't have any of the resources they usually had to make do with the things that were available or easier to get in the camps. They had used the holidays as their calendar. This poem, written by 23-year-old Magna Bognar when she was in the Ravensbrück concentration camp, speaks about her faith. Our dreams must come true one of these days, and when that happens, we shall all go home, and we shall rebuild our tiny nest all over again, where nobody can ever harm us again. And if they ask, are we happy? Is it good to live like this? We shall say yes, because we learned to suffer and to persevere.
Today I will be talking about my great-grandma, Piri Roth, who was born in 1915 and was the oldest of 4 children. When she was only 6, her father died in World War I, and her mother owned a restaurant that she would help out with in her free time. A few years later, her mother remarried a widow with 2 sons. 3 years later, in 1939, my great-grandma found her future fiancé, Harold, but he emigrated to the United States before the full rise of Hitler. Piri was kept behind and was hoping to go find her fiancé, but that didn't happen. In 1944, her first step into the Holocaust was taking a shower with a bar of soap that she later realized was made from the bodies of their fellow Jews. I can't even imagine how appalling that must have been to learn this when she was already suffering so much. Then she put on a rag as clothing and slept in bunk beds, which she described as shelves with no pillows or blankets. Now, none of us can even imagine sleeping without a mattress or even just without a blanket or pillow. A few weeks later, she was sent to Auschwitz, where she lived in the worst conditions. After a long and atrocious war, where she lived through the unimaginable horrors and suffered starvation and deprivations, cruelty and mental anguish beyond description, she managed to survive the Holocaust. This made me think about my life versus hers, and at the same age, just living in different places and in very different circumstances. I am proud to be able to tell her story and pass it on to future generations in my family. I know it would mean a lot to her that I am keeping her story alive and sharing it with all of you.
The Paperclip Project. In 1998, something amazing happened in the town of Whitwell, a small rural community of fewer than 2,000 people nestled in the mountains of Tennessee. Whitwell Middle School principal Linda Hooper asked language arts teacher Sandra Roberts and associate principal David Smith to begin a Holocaust education class that would be the basis for teaching diversity. When the students, mostly white and Christian, struggled to grasp the concept of such a huge number, 6 million, Jews died during the Holocaust. They decided to collect 6 million paperclips, one for each person who perished. Why paperclips? The students' research found that Norwayans wore paperclips as a silent protest and a symbol of resistance against Nazi occupation during World War II. This project was a simple idea that eventually turned into a worldwide event, drawing the attention of the media and later receiving letters of support from literally every continent.
I chose the Paperclip Project because it was the most interesting to me. A lot of what we learned about the Holocaust was sad and very hard to comprehend. And this project taught not only those in Whitwell, but also many people all over the world about what the Holocaust was. In order to collect 6 million paperclips, they sent letters to famous people, friends, family, and complete strangers asking for them to send paperclips. Almost every paperclip that was sent in was sent with a letter. Each letter was saved, and now the classroom is filled with binders containing all the letters. The small school in Tennessee was even on the news for starting such an amazing project to remember all the Jews killed. The project was much bigger than they had ever expected and gained so much popularity that 2 German news reporters from D.C., Dagmar and Peter Schroeder, came to their school to interview the kids. This Tennessee school later had the unique opportunity of meeting 3 Holocaust survivors. A school that had never ever heard of the Holocaust got to meet people who lived through these terrible times. The Whitwell students continued to receive paperclips from all over the world. Once they reached their goal of 6 million paperclips, they had to figure out where to put them. They decided that a rail car that once was used to transport Jews to concentration camps would be the perfect thing to hold all of the paperclips. With the help of Peter and Dagmar, they were able to get the rail car that is now filled with the paperclips. It now has become a memorial at the front of the school in Whitwell, Tennessee. This is such an inspiring story that truly shows anyone can make a difference.
People found many ways to recall the Jews who passed in the Holocaust. The Stolperstein project was started by the German artist Günter Demnig in 1992. He was passionate about bringing back names of those killed in the Holocaust. Stolperstein are cubic concrete blocks covered by brass plates that are installed into the streets. Every Stolperstein starts with the words "Here lived" and continues with the name, birth date, address, deportation date, fate, and other important information. The Stolperstein are placed outside the last known address of the Jew who died in the Holocaust. Stolperstein means stumbling stones. They are meant to be stumbled upon when walking in the streets. Stolperstein makes up the biggest non-centralized memorial in the world. I find this topic very important because it shows the honorability of Günter Demnig. I also find it significant for the names of the Jews to be spread, and I find it inspiring that one man did this life-changing and history-changing action. There are tens of thousands of stones around 26 countries in Europe and have been a great way to bring back the memory of Jews who died during the Holocaust, especially those whose biographical information is the only evidence that they lived.
Candlelighting is a traditional component of Jewish remembrance rituals. Candles have a long history as a memorial light and as symbols of life. We typically light in memory of close relatives who have died. We say that we remember, that their lives mattered and continue to matter to us. Tonight, we are lighting 11 candles for the 11 million who perished in the Holocaust. Candle 1. in memory of 1.5 million innocent children whose lives were extinguished in the cruelest way, a candle is lit.
Candle 2. In memory of parents whose indescribable anguish of separation from their children was exceeded by witnessing their murder, a candle is lit.
Candle 3. In memory of those saintly sages whose lives were dedicated to the teaching of the Torah and who went to their death with the cry of Shema Yisrael on their lips, a candle is lit.
In memory of all the righteous among the nations who risked their lives to save and protect their Jewish brothers and sisters, a candle is lit.
In memory of all the brave souls who perished, offering physical and spiritual resistance, not out of expectation of conquest, but for the honor and glory of the Jewish people, a candle is lit.
In memory of all men, women, and children who have no else to remember them or say Kaddish for them, whose very names have been erased from the world, but whose memory lives on in our hearts and in our thoughts, for them a candle is lit.
In memory of the political prisoners and those branded criminals who stood up against injustice, for all those who risked their lives to help others, for the simple but profound reason that it was the right thing to do. For them, a candle is lit.
In memory of the Romas, nonconformists, Jehovah's Witness, and other groups who were removed from the world because they wouldn't follow the new norm, a candle is lit.
In memory of all the homosexuals and mentally and physically disabled, and any other group targeted for being born different, a candle is lit.
In memory of all the lost hopes and dreams, the worlds that could have been but isn't, for the possibilities of hope for a better world, a candle is lit.
Tonight, I light this final candle to shine a light on injustice all over the world, so that we might find our own strength and courage to speak out for all of those who are unable to, so that we'll remember, never forget, Zahor.
Please rise if you can and join us in saying the Mourner's Kaddish.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמך רבה, בעלמא דברי חירותי והמליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהא שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולעולמי עולמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתהלל ויתהלל שמי דקודשה ברכו. לילה מן כל בירתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונהמתה, דמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום, עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן.
I always wanted to do this. You may be seated. So I know that I'm not supposed to be smiling and have such a happy face on during a Yom Hashoah service, but I think that our 8th graders did an amazing job creating and presenting and leading us in this service. Thank you all so much for joining us for such an important service, honoring and remembering those who died at the hands of the Nazis and their sympathizers. This is all just a small piece of what we learned this year about the Holocaust. I'm so impressed by these 8th graders' desire to learn all about these topics. We could not even get through a class. Jess and I would plan it, and at best, we felt successful if we got through half of it because they just kept asking questions, and the questions were so good that it made sense to go off on this direction and that. So we did the best we could, but the questions were a really great part. They had keen insight, and they had a great ability not just to learn the facts, but feel them a bit and start to feel connected to either some of the people they hadn't met, or as you saw, they each picked their topic. Jess and I went sort of and stood in the corner of the room, and they sat at a table and decided what this program was going to be. And they all took a turn at leading, and they put this program together. They put it in order. It was really a phenomenal amount of work. So I want to thank Ariella, Carly, you gotta, Charlotte, Daphna, Jonah, Lucy, Max, who couldn't be here tonight, Miles, you're over here, Natalie, and it's just alphabetical, but Sammy comes next, Sasha, and Zoe. So thank you and have a good, safe trip home. Thank you. I want to take a picture of everybody before we go home. Sasha and Zoe.